boy. Hey, everybody. How are you? Happy Sunday. Oh, it's chilly out here. Leslie Plazz here for my Sunday Zazoo Plazz report for December 18th, 2022. 1 week to go till Christmas. Here I am in my usual. I got snow over there. See, that's the remains of the snowstorm. It's still a little chilly though. But at least I could break out my nice green jacket, you know. When I was a kid, it's funny, all my favorite coats are green. When I was a kid, I have a picture of myself wearing this green jacket, and I had a green hat to match. And I was standing at the open. My parents were building their beach house, and once again, in the middle of the winter, they had taken me to see the lot and the big hole where the house was going to be. You just like, just a big pit before they poured the foundation. I'm standing there. I'm like 10, it was, I don't know, the late 70s, mid 70s, the late. I wasn't in high school, maybe 13, 14. Yeah, around the late 70s. And I'm standing there like this, like kids do, and I don't want to be here. And I have my green coat on, and I have my green hat in my hand, and I'm like, which is what my parents would drive. Even after the house was there years later, they'd say, let's go in the middle of the winter. Who the heck goes to the beach in the middle of December? But my parents would. And so, where they'd go in like November, because they'd go through the fall. It was nice in the fall, and then around the beginning of November, they'd go. My husband knows this. You see what I was doing. I'm like, oh, hey, they're going to turn the water off. You're watching. My husband who would go, so such as it was, they'd make a big trip, because that's what you did, Did I say Zazoo Plazz report? Yes, 12, 18, 22. And boy, the report came together so easily today. I mean, it was like dreaming, falling out of bed and out here. Except I made my pote chinois before I came out here. So he's eating, my husband's eating, the kid's home from college, took all his exams. He went out to I don't know, somewhere near New Haven. They're going to see a concert with his buddies. I said, oh, who are you going to see? He's like, Mom, it's a small group. You wouldn't even know. See, and that's 19-year-old, that's teenage ease for if you knew about them, then they wouldn't be cool anymore. And then I would totally not even want to see them if my mother knew who they were, see? So after a while, see, when your kids grow up, you can't be too hip. They won't let you. And we didn't let our parents in on our stuff. Not like they wanted to, but see, that's how you declare your independence from your parents. Because if we all were like equally cool, then nobody would be doing anything new, We'd all just be stuck listening to, I don't know, whatever my grandparents listened to on the Victrola back in the 20s. I don't know. Anyway, so I made what you might be asking yourself, what the heck is pote chinois? You French Canadians, you Quebecois, you know what I'm talking about. It's basically it's shepherd's pie. Most people know what shepherd's pie is. You dump a whole bunch of hamburger and corn and some other stuff in a big, well, you could make it in a dish, but my mother always made it get the big Dutch oven out, and then she'd crumble hamburger, and she'd put in sliced potatoes, kind of thinly sliced, and And then she'd dump a couple cans of cream corn on the top, put some like oregano, and she'd take half an hour to explain how to make it. So I'm going to do the short version. And then she'd put like a little oregano, salt, pepper. She actually used to cut up a real onion, and the store wouldn't let me have any in my delivery this week. So I had to use the frozen kind with the little peppers mixed in. Those are good. Put the whole thing in Dutch oven, put the cover on, and she'd stick it in the oven at 350 for 2 hours, and then go and wrap crisp. See, I got it in my head. She'd make it all year round, but I got it in my head that you have to have it on Christmas Eve or around Christmas. That was me. That wasn't her. My grandmother, apparently, some people, see, that's the thing with Canadians, French Canadians, is they all make it differently, and they all think they're right. That their way is the best way. So, apparently, maybe my grandmother made it with sliced potatoes one time because she didn't have time to mash them up, because she was busy raising a family and working at the corner drugstore and, doing all her stuff, cleaning her house and, so back in the 50s, I guess, or the 40s, whenever, they started coming out with all these conveniences and shortcuts, and that was the thing, not having to do it all by hand was like, wow. So she started taking some shortcuts, and my mother just kept doing it. So she's like, no, we slice our potatoes, we don't mash them. And I look like her saying it. Anybody who knew Pauline, my mom, this is the way we do it. So, therefore, I said, Mom, why do we not, years later I found out other people mash their potatoes. Well, it's the way Mime did it, and it's the way I do it, and so it's the way you do it. So I'm going to lead in with that, because this is one of those weeks. We're finishing out Sagittarius, and this is one of my shortcomings that I want to talk about. Oh, is this good? This is the perfect setup. So, you get to the holidays, and so, okay, so let me ask you, before I get too sidetracked, at the holidays, think of some things, we all have those things that we should do, that so-and-so always did. So that's what we do, and we never think about it. We ask why. Why do we do this? And then you get to the point where it's like, oh, it's Christmas. Now I have to do this, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And we have to go to church, and we have to do this, and we have to do that. And then it's like, well, what do you want to, what's in your heart? What's your Christmas? And I never thought about this until this week. And I've been doing all my astrological research and uncovering, peeling the onion, uncovering, in my case, everything I ate as a child had onions in it, the Frenchy way. Your cereal, you got some onions on it. All the other kids, like, I got to open my lunch box. I got ground pork and onions. Anyway, I was a child who I felt like I was somewhat of a freak. I didn't fit in. There weren't a lot of other French kids. And then when I got to college, I went to an Irish Catholic school, Boston College, and I really didn't fit in there. But I get the Catholic part, which brings me to the topic of traditions. Dogma, things that you were taught and you never questioned. Then you get to be in your mid-50s, you're like, you know what? I don't want to do that anymore. I'm not going to do that. This makes me happy. I'm going to do this now. It's a freedom. It's a freedom to really dig deep. And, it can be scary because it's like, my mom's not here to tell me to do stuff, So what do I do? And if I do the wrong thing, so what? Okay, so I've come to terms with that. Took me a little while. My dad, he likes his traditions, but he's always, he does his own thing. He's happy doing his own thing. So he's not going to, stop me. But I'm like, you've spent your entire life doing either what other people have told you to do, that other people have told them to do, or, you're trying to please everybody around you, doing what you think they want you to do, and all of a sudden it's like, well, what do I want to do? I don't know. I just don't know. So that's why that brings me to the fourth Sunday of Advent. Wow. So, so the theme of today is, it's the song Dreamweaver. All right? Remember that song? It came out 1975. In December 1975, I was 10. And it was a great song. It went up to number 2 on the chart. Gary Wright with a W. Gary is my husband, Gary. And he used to like this comedian named Stephen Wright, who was, Wright with a W, who he went to college up in Worcester, and I guess that guy, Stephen Wright, came, did a show. My husband used to be on the Lens and Lights crew up at Worcester Polytech in Worcester. And when he was in college there in the late 80s, and, so he did this guy's show, and great comedy, very, very, very tongue-in-cheek, very, yeah. He was also in the movie, So I Married an Ex-Murderer. He was flying the plane, and he's like, oh, it's the first time I flew at night. Mike Myers is like, oh, I've flown a plane many times. First time I'm flying at night, though. So, okay, so do we sometimes feel like we're flying at night? There's a plane up there. Yeah, so it's that Sunday, with Joseph, who has the dream. It's that one, Ahaz. I was reading with a guy named Ahaz, rhymes with Zazoo Plazz, prophet, I guess, from the Old Testament. It's the whole Emmanuel reading, right? I won't go into all that. But the one that always sticks is where Joseph has the dream, where he's going to play small. He's like, he finds out about Mary, expecting Jesus, and he's, I'm just going to I'll let myself out, He's going to play small. He's like, I don't need this kind of drama in my life, I like my little woodworking business. I got friends. We go and we get together, and I just want to mind my own business and fly under the radar. And God says, no, you're not playing small. You didn't come here to play small. Get your butt back there. So in this Bible story, Joseph was going to duck out and leave Mary to raise the baby, just because he didn't want to put him, he didn't want, it scared him. That's what, he was scared. I don't know if I'm up for this. Oh my God. And then God says, get back there. Sometimes these stories play out in real life. So, so what we have to do, we all have dreams, right? I mean, I have all kinds of dreams. Some people don't remember them. I carry mine throughout the day. I'm all over the place, I have very active, lucid dreams. Even as a child, my mother used to say I astral traveled, whatever that meant. I didn't know what that meant. But astral means of the stars, right? I go up and, and then I'd wake up and my dreams would form the basis of my reality, without even really consciously doing it. And for a lot of us, this can be true. Oh, great. Somebody's walking their dog, talking loud on their phone. Okay. Yeah. So, in other words, it's a time God says, like we say to our kids, what do you want to ask Santa for, right? Dream big. right? Put it down there, you know? And you just never know, right? If you can see it, you put it on your list. And if you've been good, then Santa will bring what's on your list. You know, you don't have to tell a kid, not to, don't play small. Kids like, no, I want a horse. I'll put the horse down on the list. I want an ATV, super vehicle, and I want this. I want the Barbie super duper, townhouse thing with all the blah blah blah. Kids aren't afraid to ask for what they want. Kids, and I want the Lego Galactic, uh, Star Wars super, bike. Our kids, the younger one, he'd have a list about that long for Santa. The older one would be, of course, and as they get older, the list gets shorter, but the items on the list get more expensive, right? When they're a little kid, I want this and this and this and this and this and that. And of course, they don't get everything on the list, but they get most things, if they're reasonable. In other words, if, we can fit them in the house and we can afford it, we'd get them what they wanted. And, I wasn't a grabby kid, but mostly what I wanted. And think back, too. What did you want for Christmas when you were a kid? What were your dreams back then, Mostly me, I wanted books. That's what I have the biggest problem now, getting rid of. I have all these books and all this knowledge, and I'm like, what if I get rid of this notebook from MBA school, and I need that information? Well, you know what? I already have it. It's already in my head. What I need to do is, decide that I'm going to give away my set of, 14 or 15 Nancy Drew books. Once I take a picture of them and figure out why they were important to me, which they are, because they played a role in who I am today. So I'm like, oh yeah, look at, what do you have trouble getting rid of? And what was dear to you? What did you treasure as a child? What were your favorite gifts? And why? And if you can look back at that, because when you were a child, you could dig deep, right? You knew deep, you had access to your heart before it got covered up with everybody else's Santa list, what they wanted, that they put on you. I didn't get this when I was a kid. So now that I'm a grown-up, I'm going to have this, and I'm going to have that, and I'm going to have that, and I'm going to have that, because nobody gave it to me when I was a kid, so I need it. So anyway, yeah, Joseph's just going to, I'm just going to, where's it playing now? So, yeah, for me, so the dream thing is there's a lot of Pisces going on now. Pisces, wow. We have Jupiter finishing up in Pisces, going into Aries soon. We got Neptune, I think, is hovering around Pisces. That's its home in Pisces. And then we got Saturn's going to tiptoe into Pisces. I mean, that's a lot of Pisces. That's a lot of dreaming. Pisces is ruled by Neptune, which is the dream weaver. That is the dream weaver. What's real and what's not, right? It's like looking through you get in your car and it's all fogged up, you put on your defroster so you can see where you're going, right? Because you don't know, if you can't see where you're going, you're gonna get into you're gonna have problems. You're not gonna be able to drive. See, and that could be dangerous. But the reason we have dreams is that we can get to a place that we can't get to during our waking life. And that's where God is trying to, or spirit, source, whoever, that's where, we can get those clues. So God wants us to. God wants us to reach for the stars, right? And what do you think the Magi? They were following the stars, right, to get to Jesus. it all fits together. Now, when I did some research on that song, I guess it was one of the big synthesizer songs of the 70s. Now, I was playing the organ in the 70s. I was that little girl. I was like 8, 10 years old. My feet didn't quite reach the pedals. 8 years old. I was out there, you know. I was playing in the window at the Watkins organ store. People used to go to a store. Essentially, it was a big piece of furniture, right? In the 70s, it was a big deal to have a big organ or a piano. And, still, not so much now that we have those portable keyboards, which we, have. But people would. It was a huge purchase, And at the same time, we had a big stereo, which was a huge piece of furniture in our living room that played records. And you could also, use it, to put your drinks on. If you had a party, you could put a tray of drinks on it. And everybody would be, oh, Ray, look at that. They got a stereo, and it's got big speakers on the side of it. The thing was huge. It took up half the living room. And then in the dining room, we used to have the organ, right? And when people came over at the holidays, I was expected to put on a show. It was like, here's our little clown. She's going to dance and sing. Not sing. They told me to shut up and not sing because I didn't get that particular gift. But she's going to tell jokes and she's going to tap dance. And then they brought me for organ lessons. So then I would go, after dinner and I'd play songs for the company until they told me to stop. And then I'd stop and sit there and shut my mouth because the grown-ups had to talk. And I had a lot to say. But anyway, it was deemed that I was not sufficiently old enough to have the opinions that I had as a child, which were many. So, how were you shoved down and shushed and shut off, And then, when it suited them, they'd put me in the window at the Watkins place, and I'd play, and it would broadcast out into the street on the speakers, And my mom would be up there pointing to me. That's my daughter in there playing the organ. That's her. That's my daughter. Wow. And I could barely touch the pedals. I'd be like just trying to. I have like a white blouse with a little, high collar and a long Christmas skirt that looked like my mother took her tablecloth and wrapped Christmas tablecloth and wrapped it around me and stuck it with a pin. And patent leather shoes. And they decked us up when we were kids. So anyway, the song Dreamweaver, apparently it was inspired by this. George Harrison turned this guy on to something about, the autobiography of a yogi. It was kind of a new agey, that was in then. Well, it's in now, but then they called it new age. Now it's like this age. But, when the Beatles went to India, they were in their India stage. John Lennon was the Dreamweaver of the 60s. He was, talking about, that's what the Beatles brought, that awareness of the East, the Eastern philosophies, breaking away from the dogmas that influence, our lives. So I guess they used it in Wayne's World too, that song, back in '92. Yeah, I'm winding down on this, but listen to the song. It's always been one of my favorites, and it was kind of inspiring for me in the 70s. It sort of formed the backdrop for my, my philosophies, my thinking as a child, because I did a lot of thinking and reading and, dreaming about my future. And I always thought that it could be so much better. It could always be so much better than the present, There was always something I was dissatisfied about. So I'd write every day. I keep a diary, And by high school, I had some ideas, and I was happy to find some, a teacher or two who was happy to take me under their wing and help me to give voice to a lot of my ideas. But one more thing I wanted to talk about. So, yeah. So, it makes me so happy to get little cards from people. I got a nice little card. I'm gonna cover the address here. Nice little card from my uncle who lives in North Carolina. It's got little my dad's brother.